Hello and welcome to the IDEM Risala Update Interactions. The interactions, as you know, has addressed very many issues in the past. But today, we are going to talk to Senior Journalist Ajaz Ashraf, who has been my friend for very many years and, of course, whose incisive political social analysis has kind of appeared in very many organizations, very many outlets, very many media publications. But we are going to look and ask him some questions about his most recent work on Bhima Koregaon. And he is saying he has placed it in a context of challenging caste. The book is called Bhima Koregaon Challenging Caste. And of course, it goes on to say how there is a Brahminical backlash to the Bhima Koregaon episode, the war, 1818 war, which upheld the pride of the Dalit army. Ajaz, welcome to the IDEM Interactions.
Hello.
Of course,
Yeah.
as I was telling, we go back a long way. But then this, and of course, we've been following your political analysis for very many years. But this is a very new kind of initiative that you've taken, because Bhima Koregaon, we know that it is one of the most heinous incidents that has happened in Indian history, especially in independent India's history. The kind of targeting of intellectuals and academics. But you have placed this book in terms of the old caste struggle and saying that there is a backlash to it now. Could you please explain a little more?
Okay. So, Battle of Bhima Koregaon, 1818. So, a small British army of comprising about 800, 900 soldiers, the estimates vary. They defeated the Peshwa Bajirao II. And that essentially triggered the collapse of the Peshwa Empire. He was anyway already a fugitive, but essentially the defeat ensured that the possibility of his return wasn't there. Now a good part of the British Indian Army was made of Mahar soldiers who were, as you would know, the erstwhile untouchable caste. And 22 of them died, and later on, in order to emphasize the importance of the Bhima Koregaon battle, the British erected a victory pillar, and on which there are 22 names etched. Now, as it often happens, this memory of Bhima Koregaon was subsequently harnessed to fight caste battles.
Right.
Now, why was it used as a caste battle? Because Peshwas who were Chittavan Brahmin by caste and did go out, and there are enough historical documents to show that they did go out of their way to promote, to keep intact the Brahminical hegemony, and they financed Brahmin scholars for religious studies, etc. And also they made the caste rules very rigid. So the Mahars, it's the whole Peshwa rule is remembered as the times when today's Dalits their ancestors faced a lot of caste, not only caste discrimination, but oppression. Now that memory has been now harnessed, and there is this whole big story about the tradition of visiting there on 1st January 1818, the day on which the Peshwa was defeated.
Yeah.
Sorry. But subsequently, through important steps, through very concerted steps, on 1st January 2018, the 200th year anniversary celebration erupted in violence. Now, in terms of the scale of the violence, it was not much. I mean, we've seen worse incidents of violence all over the country for decades. So only one person had died, for instance, and about 68 constables and other civilians who had been injured, and 9.5 crore rupees of properties were destroyed. But then, it was used to link it that the violence at Bhima Koregaon was instigated by the Communist Party of Moyes. So in other words, you were saying that it was their brilliant idea to celebrate the anniversary, which they obviously, a large segment of Indian society, essentially the upper caste, especially the Brahmins, see it as anti-national.
Right. No, but that is one aspect of the thing. But then you say that that in the 200, as the 200th anniversary was being celebrated, your positioning is that there was a kind of it is a kind of you are placing it in a historical terms, and you are saying that there is a Brahminical backlash 200 years later, especially in the way these.
So you have to locate it in when does. So there has always been a little bit of heartburn among certain social groups, especially among Brahmins, that because Peshwas are considered, the Brahmins consider Peshwas as very dear, and so it is always so why did certain things happen, or why did the violence erupt? We have to look at the date, and the date is 2018. That is. 2018, and so in 2014 you have BJP coming to power at the center, and you have BJP coming a few months later to power in Maharashtra. So that is why it's located there. It's also located in terms of like. Now I'll have to get into what Elgar Parishad was.
Yeah.
I mean Elgar Parishad. So there were two judges, P.B. Sawant and B.J. Kolse Patil, who were quite perturbed at the rise in what they saw incidents of caste atrocities post 2014. They were also quite alarmed, and everyone was alarmed as a matter of fact, about lynching in the name of the cow, and the incident started really growing. Then you had Rohit Vemula dying by suicide. You had Ambedkar Bhavan being demolished. So then you had the Maratha girl who was the Ahmednagar Kopadi incident. And there were these silent marches, and they wanted the dilution of Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. Now, to these two judges and to many others, it looked like as it was the return of the new Peshwa. They called it the new Peshwa because they thought that the caste elements or the symptoms of the caste structures that were there were being deliberately brought back. And yeah, so that was how, and it was. There are a series of things that also.
Yeah. You had also the kind of aggressive maneuvers against the so-called Maoists in Chhattisgarh, the Operation Greyhound, and the creation of the Salvaj Doom. All these things, there was an atmosphere that was being created. There was a narrative that was being built. But how does because when you look at the Bhima Koregaon case, what you see is that that you have people like Stan Swami, you have people like Hani Babu, Gautam Navalakha, who are not people who are not essentially social activists on the ground. Stan Swami, of course, was, but many others were academics and all that. So how did these people? How were they brought into this trap of the case?
How were they brought into the case? In other words, what you're saying, that why were they chosen?
Yeah.
Why were they made accused? So obviously implicit in your question is that you don't believe that they are accused, right? Yeah. That they weren't wrong. And like series of things have shown that the evidence marshaled against them to make them, to charge sheet them, were basically documents that were planted on the computers. Now, we're not going to get into as to who did. I can get into the entire thing as to.
Ajaz, I think when you position in terms of caste and caste hegemony, the way when I read your book, what I thought was that the technology angle is also very important, because technology is also becoming an instrument of oppression.
Absolutely. In this case, it is so.
Yeah.
It is so.
It is again a kind of a manifestation of the caste hegemony through technology.
Yeah,
and also the targeting of these people. That is.
So these are if you start looking at them, all of them in a certain sense. I think all of them are they're all anti-Hindutva. They are all for the marginalized groups. They have worked for the marginalized groups. They have an idea of development which is in sharp contrast to the BJP. So all those kind of things, if you look at it, they've worked among tribals, among Dalits, they are activists, they are organizers, they do it for human rights. They are the people. So in a certain sense, if we assume or if we say that that these people were made accused, okay, the judgment has to come and the trial has to in fact begin, even though 6 years have lapsed. If we assume that they were fixed, why did they do it? So I think it was to convey a seminal message to Dalit movement, to radical movements. Look, the price that you have to pay will be enormous.
Well, that is a kind of
That is how I will look at it. Now, what happened, why is obviously the people who did it are to answer the question. But for me, I think a seminal message was communicated that you have to pay a very heavy price if you oppose certain things. I mean, and linked to it is all major things. If you are, if you are an activist organizing, like say for people like Mahesh Rath, for instance, or Sudha Bhardwaj, you invariably come into opposition with people who mining concerns, industries, etc. So that element is also built into it. Basically, they wanted to, the 16 people, not only did they want to send a message, I think they wanted to take the 16 people out from the equation of the political day-to-day, everyday political life. For instance, Stan Swami is gone, and Stan Swami played a major role in the Pathaldi movement, in organizing Dalits, etc. So, yeah, I think...
Yeah, in fact, I had occasion to meet G.N. Sai Baba on 15th of August this year. I mean, in fact, just before he left for Hyderabad, where he, of course, he met with this...
unfortunate, sure.
But he was telling me that, that the larger Indian deep state, I mean, irrespective of the political party which runs the government, they have been seeing, I mean, in fact, he says that the Bhima Koregaon movement was a kind of high point of that movement, which was happening across India in various parts where Adivasis and marginalized were coming together. And Sai Baba's own contention was that that the deep state was targeting academics and intellectuals and sociologists and social activists who were working with the grassroots.
Yeah. So among the 16 accused, or the BK16 as they are called, they are, sorry to interrupt you, but there are people who had been accused of being moist by the Congress regime earlier, right? Yeah. They'd been exonerated of all the charges. Now we can, Sudhir Diwali, Arun Ferreira, Vernon Gonzalez. I mean, all the people had been, the Jyoti Jagtap, Ramesh Gaichor, Sagar Gukhe. There is a big case going on from 2011 of Kabir Kala Manch, which hasn't yet been decided even now. And they were accused of being moist. Now, the funny thing happens that if a case is not decided, then the police cites that case to say that they are moist.
Yeah, and
so yes, it is a lot to do. It's a lot to do with the structure of the state. It's not necessarily to do. I mean, yes, Hindutva and other angles are there, and then maybe BJP has brought a special flavor to it. But it is a lot to do with the state structure. There is no denying about it. Congress played a role in it. Especially
but of course, the state structure is getting more intense and aggressive.
Aggressive. That may be the case, but the original sin was, in a way, committed by the Congress. Let me put it this way.
Sai Baba calls it the deep state. I mean, he doesn't want to
sure.
He doesn't want to put any political tag to it in a sense in terms of political party tags. But you say, because the two interesting things that I see in the book, in the larger narrative of the book, one is where you talk about the backlash, and of course we have talked about the backlash, and you have said that they have reasserted their hegemony. They have sent a message to the Dalits and the Adivasis.
Except that maybe in the first year after, the celebration on 1st January continues to be very big.
Yeah,
so,
but that by itself is not tangible. But then you say that this whole Bhima Koregaon movement is this kind of bulwark of challenging caste in India. So where does it go from here in a larger picture? Where does it go from here? Because I don't find any direction on that in the book.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was saying challenging caste in terms of what it stood, but the might of the state was very huge. I mean, it was enormous, and I think it came under that basically they wanted to target Elgar Parishad. I don't think you can call Bhima Koregaon as a movement to begin with. I mean, Bhima Koregaon,
it's a symbol.
It's a symbol. Yeah, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor of whatever happened in the past and how that metaphor is being used today and how it is being reinterpreted and, remembered today. But I don't think it's a movement. What it was basically sent a message. I mean, the Elgar Parishad was essentially a cross-caste mobilization. It was a cross-caste mobilization of 260 organizations, civil society groups, which had come together on the same platform. There were problems, obviously. I mean, as Anand Teltumde would point out, that it got too much into, his argument was that if Dalits are going to present Bhima Koregaon as an example of their victory, then why would other social groups be interested in it? So in a certain sense, if you look at it, the Elgar Parishad and other endeavors of different social groups in Maharashtra has been to create some kind of a non-Brahmin movement of the past, rework it in a different ways, of Jyotiba Phule, Ambedkar and Shah Maharaj. So in that sense, I mean it in that sense. Where does the caste movement go? I don't know. One looks at it electorally, the other way is to look at it as a social moral perspective. But one thing is very sure, that the caste continues to dominate, and caste politics continues to dominate. And I suppose,
yeah, that of course is a given. But then coming back to again the personalities who are involved in the case and who have been charged in the case, you narrate these personal stories, and some of the stories of Sudha Bharadwaj, Stan Swami.
All the 16. 15 plus I have got Vavara Rao's wife's interview.
Yeah. So these narration of these individual stories, how do they impact the larger political premise or platform?
Okay, so all those 6 stories, or the profile and courage, as the book calls it, I mean, this was done for a newspaper. This was done for a newspaper, and for 5 months every week this was appearing. So in one sense, I could say it was a little small contribution to keep ensuring that they are not forgotten. Right. The second way to look at it is to convey the suffering. I think we say, okay, X, Y, Z is in prison, but what goes behind it, the misery it causes, and the misery is further compounded because all of them believe they hadn't done. I mean, they were not dacoits, right? They were not like, so the misery of seeing your loved ones, some of them lost their, like Surendra Gadling lost his mother when he was, So all of them, there's so much of misery over there. And I think I wanted to communicate the pain of the whole thing and just the tiring hope. I mean, it's also to document the period. It's also to document what's happening in India in these years and who are its victims.
Well, since we talked about
because all of us and so do I, get very engaged in electoral competition. But there's so much that is happening outside.
Then these stories are really heartrending.
Yeah.
Coming back to the point on deep state, which I brought it and Saiba was talking about it. Of course, one of the key elements of this case, as it progressed, was the manner in which the computers of some of the accused were hacked, seemingly by somebody placed abroad. But of course, one is not really able to fix it up. Whether we will not be able to take it directly to the Indian government or state. But when you look at the deep state angle, is there a possibility that there is a larger collaboration of international agencies also in this operation? Because Sai Baba was telling me that that essentially what happened with him and what happened with all others, the context was where there was a kind of coming together of sectarian communalism and crony capitalism to take forward the interests of globalization. So how would you look at that?
So I don't know about whether the global players were involved. I don't know the mechanism through which it was involved. But if we look at what has been disclosed, or let's say put it, alleged by the defendants, and with proof. Now, first you add caravan story suggesting that Surendra Gadling, and I'll have to explain this. So Surendra Gadling and Rona Wilson's computer was most probably suggested had been tampered with. Then came Arsenal Consulting report in 2021.
Yeah.
And they started with Rona Wilson and then Surendra Gadling and then subsequently very late after his demise, Stan Swamy. Now all of these showed that the computers have been hacked and that certain files were they were hacked in the sense they were
certain files were inserted.
Right, and they were being remotely controlled. So they were so these things we knew. I mean, it started coming report by report. Now, so obviously, who did it? Why did it? And the funny part was that a lot of these documents were created on Microsoft version, which these people were not using. So there is absolutely, in certain sense, no way you can create those files on the thing. They also seem to suggest that these people had not interacted with those files. Now, this was continuing like that. Then came Sentinel Lab, or the Sentinel-1, Sentinel-1. They came up with a report which said that there were a group of hackers whom they called Modified Elephant. They gave a name to it, and these guys were repeatedly using the same set of people who were targeting some of these people. Then came the next round. The next round was a Wired magazine. Now, the Wired magazine, so Sentinel-1 disclosed to Wired magazine that they were working with a security and analyst with email service provider. Now, this email service provider, the security analyst, told them that the emails of Hani Babu, Varvara Rao, and Rona Wilson, that they had been compromised. But more than that, that the recovery email and phone number was of an officer closely associated with the investigation into the Bhima Koregaon, right? Subsequently, those same Sentinel-1 people disclosed to Alpa Shah, the author of, that it was no other than the investigating officer. So, I mean, I don't know whether you call it deep state or the state itself. It really doesn't matter.
Well, Ajaz, so basically, this is something which is as we call it in journalism, the case itself and the larger political.
Sure, sorry, and there's another thing that I mean, my thing that the Supreme. After all these cases came about, they were talked. One of the saddening part of it would be that I think it should have been flashed in the media, like it should have dominated the pages, in the sense that is it correct that the state officials are themselves involved in planting evidence and then accusing people, and that too accusing them, booking them under a very draconian piece of law. So that should have been like the other thing. There was probably room for courts to take it up on their own. So the petition was filed by Rona Wilson and Shoma Sen, saying that a special investigation team should be constituted to go into that. Who are these people who hacked into the computer? Case is going on. The first time it came for hearing was in 2023 October, but the arguments are going on. So let's see.
But to kind of to sum up the book and the kind of conversation that we are having now. I suppose what you are essentially stating in the book is that Bhima Koregaon has become a symbol of challenging caste in this country. When you say challenging caste, hegemony of all forms, basically. And of course, there is also a backlash, and as of now, that hegemony has reasserted itself. And unfortunately, there are very many sections of society, including sections of the judiciary and the state apparatus, which is also part of this system.
I don't know that. Well, I mean, isn't it strange that, I mean, your hat goes out for that person. Mahesh Raut got bail in High Court and nothing has happened yet in Supreme Court. So, yeah.
So, as I was trying to conclude earlier.
And 6 years have gone by, and the trial has also not, charges have not been framed, the trial has not begun. So, it's somewhere, you don't know how.
Yeah, where the trial itself becomes the punishment. I mean,
absolutely.
Very many
the
cases,
process is the punishment.
Yeah. So, but again, this is an ongoing story. I mean, all these elements are kind of ingrained into the story. It's a kind of powerful symbol of what is happening in this country, the struggles that are happening in this country. So I would think that that Ajaz, it's a book that you may have to go back to again and again and kind of revise and take it forward.
I don't know. It's an ongoing thing, and you don't know how long it will take. So yeah.
So
like after the book, Gautam Lakha got bail, for instance.
yeah.
Yeah. So these kind of things will keep.
So the item Risala Update Interactions wishes you more strength in pursuing such an important topic and trying to give a sense of this important symbol of the
My pleasure.
of the contemporary times in this country. Of course, the item and the Risala Update Interactions will continue to interact with you as you go forward, supplementing the story that you have done.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for.
Thanks a lot. It was a great pleasure speaking.